Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seed to Scale Insights podcast from Axel. We are back with another episode of the first 500 days. We dive into untold stories from the first 500 days of some of the most successful startups in India with whom Axel is fortunate to have partnered from the early days. These stories feature our founders opening up on a few foundational events and decisions of their startups, some of which they will be talking about for the first time in a public forum. Today, we have a treat for you. Sachin Agrawal is the CEO and co founder of Bizongo, the largest business to business online marketplace for packaging needs in India. Bizongo has been a phenomenal success story in the last few years, witnessing exponential growth during the pandemic. Sachin and the team raised funding of $110 million dollars in December 2021 and now stand at a valuation of over 600 million. As they scale, we thought this would be the best time to get Sachin to talk about the first 500 days of Bizongo. And to help us tell the story, I also have on the podcast Prang Swarup, my colleague and partner at Axel, who led the seed round in Bizongo. Prank has been a part of Bizongo's journey from the very beginning, and he will help us shed light on some of the decisions that helped Bizongo get to the place they are today. It's time to dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Sachin and Prank. Prank, welcome back. And Sachin, welcome. Yeah,
Thanks, Anand.
awesome. We'll start out with the simple question of what is Bizongo in your own words?
Yeah, so Bizongo today is a full stack trade enablement platform. And we've built this for customized goods or custom made goods as a segment. That's what Bizongo is all about. And the idea is to actually make happen business on the go. That's what Bizongo is.
What is customized goods? And anything you can talk about the scale of Bizongo in terms of number of people, whatever you want to talk about. Yeah.
So customized goods is anything which a business today requires, but is to be custom made for the specific needs of that particular business and enterprise, and it's made to order. It can't be stocked for selling to any other business. And in terms of scale, I think the closest to my mind is we are at 250 people driving a scale of $700 million annualized revenue. So $3.5 million revenue per person. I think that talks about the capital efficiency and the scale of the business today.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about, I hear three musketeers, like how did the idea of Bizongo come up, and talk about the original evolution? Yeah.
Yes, I think it was back in 2015. Me and Aniket were batchmates from IIT Bombay, and we were little tired from our previous jobs, so wanting to do something very different in the with the dream and vision of bringing more and more technology to Indian businesses. We thought that that idea in itself had tremendous value and potential to build something truly valuable. We got in touch with Ankit through one of our common friends. I remember we doing a call with Ankit, and at that time finding a CTO co-founder was like super difficult and dream coming true. But we had a call with Ankit, and to our surprise, just after the call, he was like, "Let's do it."
Nice.
And
He's also IIT Bombay? Or?
He's IIT Delhi Computer
Delhi,
Science.
okay.
Yeah.
So the two of you were classmates, you and Aniket?
Yeah.
And this was when did you start? Right after?
No. So all three of us have worked in previous companies for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then we got together.
You said enough of corporate, not work life, and let me be the own boss.
Exactly.
Awesome. So we'll come back to the Bizongo story more. Coming to you, Prank, how did you originally meet Bizongo team? Sachin, walk us through that. Yeah.
Well, I think I met them in Jan of 2015 or 2016. They had just started off. I think a mutual friend connected us and met in the famous near IIT Bombay, that Aromas Cafe in Powai.
Okay.
That's where I ended up meeting, and they were showing me in the cafe like, okay, this is the website we have built. This we have gone and spoken to so many distributors. We've gone and spoken to so many buyers, suppliers. This is the catalog we've made, the multiple categories. And at that time, so I was a board observer for Power to SME, and which Axel had invested in. And they were, this is in 2015, there were so many consumer marketplaces, but very few business marketplaces. And consumer marketplaces, typically burn a lot of capital. And I was trying to find a company which I felt would not burn a lot of money, would not need to burn. And then I found Bizongo, so I said, okay, this looks very interesting. So that's how we ended up meeting at that time.
Okay,
yeah.
that's great. So, what was the original thesis? Maybe you can talk about the first few months. What were you working towards?
Yeah, I think for us, first 6 to 9 months were all about finding the right segment of operations, because we are still building our hypothesis, but we were very clear that until unless we are very focused on a particular segment and building a product which is tailor made to service the needs of that particular segment, that's going to be critical. And I think first 9 months we would have met like close to 500 business owners, going to the wholesale markets of Masjid Bandar, Sadar Market in Delhi, and various trade exhibitions, to just to get to understand from business owners like what are their real challenges, and if they have to really apply technology into their businesses, which those pockets would be. So yeah, those were the early days about, and it did help us choose our first focus segment in terms of where we operate. And yeah, then
What
the
was
journey
that
began.
segment?
And that was we started with both commodity and customized goods as a segment.
Mhm.
And we sort of started building our initial business in both of those. But soon we realized that the customized goods segment, the entire custom manufacturing made to order segment, offered had such various elements which were prudent to build a tech first business. So yeah, we went about going deeper into that.
Okay. And how did the three of you split responsibilities? Talk us through those early days. Yeah.
I think in the early days there was actually no split of responsibility. So all of us were probably working towards first crafting the vision, in a very solid fashion, building the early part of the team, the true believers in the vision, and bringing them on board, aligned with the long-term vision, and just making sure that we take first few steps in terms of choosing the right segment, and probably building the first few features of our product and tech offering in a way that we are all aligned and we are solving the identified problems in those early days. So I think, the
Tech product was Aniket, right?
Ankit.
Ankit. And then that is easy,
Yeah.
right? And then Aniket, how did
Between me and
how did-
Aniket, we were doing like business development, fundraising,
Yeah.
all of that together, and we're constantly trying to bring right business insights on ground from our meetings and connections, so that the technology team could build very simple yet engaging digital tools for the stakeholders that we are going to work with.
Got it. And how did you pick this segment at all? Like, or B2B first of all, and then specifically commodities and this?
Yeah, so I think B2B was very clear from very early days that the very passion that we carried about bringing more technology to Indian businesses. The very logical sort of extension that if we can really build a business in optimizing or automating B2B trade, that's a massive area where you could build tremendous value. So I think that was clear, but it took us 9 to 12 months before we could choose a segment in that B2B, and we broadly had divided the entire, or hypothesis of entire B2B landscape was commodity, branded goods, and then customized goods. And as we went deeper and deeper into understanding the nuances of those segments, we realized that the customized goods offered a very differentiated opportunity and a potential to build a technology first solution which will be unique in the way it services the needs of that segment. So that's why we took a plunge.
This was 2015.
This was we are closing into the start of 2016 now.
Okay. When did you meet Prayank? That
Jan 2015.
early.
We met very early.
Okay.
They were just starting off. They were going to various trade shows, trying to go and talk to people. This is how we are building some technology product. I think people had not seen anything like this before at that time. So
and Prayank, you had worked on the Prepared Mind at Axel on marketplaces. He was the proponent saying we have to do B2B marketplaces. Talk us through the investment. How did that journey happen?
I think first was we had invested in Power to SME, so I had an inkling of how B2B marketplaces work, and Mahindran had taught me a lot about how to think about structure. So that was comfortable looking at these businesses first, right? So, and then we started trying to find, okay, where else can we find B2B marketplaces which are large spends in the Indian ecosystem, but unstructured supply, So a marketplace can actually play some role of value addition, making sure quality, making sure timeliness of supply of goods happens. So that's what we are trying to find. And then, that's why I ended up meeting them also. Okay, hey, this is an interesting B2B idea in a particular vertical, or they were looking at, I think, 3-4 verticals at that time: polymers, plastics, and there was
Packaging.
one packaging, right? So there was a couple of, so that's how we met. And then we tried to refine. So I like I like the energy. I like the
Sachin got you with a smile.
Yes. Both Sachin and Aniket, both big
Aniket,
smile
yeah,
guys,
yeah.
right? I don't know how they
You didn't
do
know
it.
about Aniket singing at that time.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Aniket was a singer. I just got to know like couple of hours ago. And if you meet Sachin, Aniket, and Ankit, all three of them big smilers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
So much
I don't know how
energy.
they do it. Maybe they are very relaxed all the time.
Yeah.
But so that was fun. So then I said, okay, I was, and very interesting. So I think in the journey they were very, very early. So they
Yeah.
were not ready to. I mean, they were just starting the idea at that time. So we ended up saying, let's track this team, let's meet them. So I think they ended up meeting with a lot of. Anytime anybody from Axel used to go to Bombay, they used to end up meeting this team. We will say, okay, which is the team which should meet. I would say, hey, you should meet Bizongo team. So Shekhar met them, Prashant met them. Then Anand, you did this event, which is a B2B, which is a marketplaces competition. We all did along with your story, and they applied to that, and they were in the top 10. We had shortlisted. They were in the top 10 of them, and finally you guys won that, right?
Yeah.
And so all the teams were here for 2 days, and I think then everybody in the partnership had also met them. And during that time, I said, hey, I really like this team. I want to do this investment. So me and Mahendran met them finally, and then we decided we'll invest, and then we made an offer, and the rest is history.
Wow.
So,
Okay. So after that, like, how did it evolve in the first 500 days? Walk us through that journey. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think once we had, decided to operate in the customized goods segment, the next challenge in front of us was to choose the category in the customized goods. And we started learning a lot about product categories like packaging, specialty chemicals, textile and apparels, and other food and FMCG inputs, and diversified contract manufacturing. As we went deeper and deeper into understanding the supply demand dynamics as well as the structure of the value chains, we realized and identified two key elements which excited us about the selection of the first category. One being the supply side, highly fragmented and unorganized, where we could find a lot of SMEs manufacturing various different type of products, but with very little use of technology at that moment. And secondly, I mean, we wanted to find a category where we could be close to the entire consumption story of India, where in case those product categories were related to consumption, we could eventually build a
Grow with that
business which is a very beautiful blend of B2B and B2C together. And I think that's how we landed on packaging as a category, which is a $80 billion industry, fifth largest in India, one of the fastest growing, more than 50,000 SMEs, and very beautifully linked to the India's consumption story, because it's packaging that you're using across your pharmaceutical, consumer goods, durables, and all of those consumer products. So
if you get a delivery home in Swiggy, that's a packaging, right? Any of these, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I remember we used to order food from PureFit as well as from Swiggy. It used to come to Axel office, and so people will be commenting on the food, and they'll be commenting कि देखो packaging जो है, this packaging is provided by Bizongo.
it was end to end.
And then we will discuss, okay, why is this hard to open? Priyan, can you go and tell the Bizongo guys that this lid has to be better? Like we used to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
So that the touch and feel of that consumer behavior coming into the picture was something that naturally excited us, and that's why that's how we landed on starting packaging as a category to build a full stack trade enablement platform in that segment. And
But I think I think Anand's question, maybe for the people who will listen this, it was where we are a very big company now, but I think in the beginning, there were so many things we had to build from ground up, right? So we built technology for invoice reconciliation inside the company. We built technology for tracking logistics. We built, we experimented with so many different categories and like suppliers, right? Initially we went with large number of suppliers, and we realized all the suppliers, maybe, all the suppliers were not giving us high quality or timeliness. So then we cut down suppliers, work with few, so that our I think those will be the things which people will want to listen
Yeah,
as well.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So,
These are like all this took how long? This whole process of first of all figuring out, like, you had chemicals, you had different things. First figuring out that it's packaging, and then building technology for packaging, and talk us through some of the learnings or struggles as you went through that journey. Right?
yeah. So I think this entire piece of identifying the right segment and then the right category was typically 300 days for us. The initial 300 days was all about it, and once
10
we
months.
and once we sort of were deep into let's say packaging as a category, I think we started focusing on like which first few features that we should launch on the platform, which will really drive engagement. And I remember we discussing all of that, and the first feature that we had launched was a platform where the customer had the ability to talk with the potential supplier and chat, and we were so like enthused
Excited.
about it, like we have built a WhatsApp for business, and it's going to explode. But none of that actually
No one
happened.
used-
No one used it, and we started realizing the true intricacies of B2B communication as well as B2B engagement, and especially the engagement between supplier and customers. So, of course, that was a big flop, and we had to eventually take it off the platform. But all of that led to really understanding what really matters for the customers and suppliers when they trade, and when they trade on a continuous basis, because in our category it was all about continuous purchase of goods from similar or different set of suppliers. So we started learning those intricacies, and then launched the features which eventually saw great adoption in the coming years.
So you test out different features and then kill them if it like keep them or kill them depending on whether
we learned that we must kill them, so that we are very focused on building what really matters and what really gets adopted by the market. Yeah.
This was during the seed days, right? The first.
I think we are now reaching closer to Series A. Yeah.
I think 3 months before Series A, we had this big debate in the board that we had a very large polymer business, which was negative gross margin, but it was very high GMV for. I think 3 crores GMV we were getting per month. And we had this big debate. And all of us were very afraid. We said because at that time GMV used to be very big, fancy. Everybody used to get attracted to GMV. Then I think we made a call jointly. The founders as well as the board. We basically said, "Here, we don't want to be in this game of GMV. We want to be building a profitable business. So let's remove all business which is not profitable." And then that's when they started focusing on from polymer, all the 3-4 categories. So okay, this category of packaging is where we're going to get majority contribution margin. And it was a big call because it went from 3 crores per month to I think 20 lakhs.
20 lakhs, yeah. It was less than 10%, but we took that bold call, and I think eventually it did.
I think that was a transformational moment because I think because we built from 20 lakhs again the whole business, and I felt that at least all of you guys, all the founders were like confident that we have gone from 3 crores to 20 lakhs, and then from there we can build back up. I think that was a transformational moment for me also as an investor. This is possible.
So there were a bunch of pivots, right? And during those days you went. How did you feel about it as the investor? Like,
I was scared all the time. Abhi, we are pivoting this. I don't know what is going to happen. Like this whole pivot from multi categories to only packaging was one big pivot. Then the second, I think we added a design studio. How will that business work? Because we are now going to solutioning and servicing of customers as well. We launched SaaS business. So every time there was this big question in my mind ki, okay, will this work, not work? But I think the good part is that the team had done a lot of research. Ki, this is the build conviction. This is why we should do it. And I think it is part and parcel of the journey that some experiments work, some experiments don't work. But yes, as an investor, if you ask me, every time team used to come and say, "Ab ye kuch naya karenge," I'm like, "Pata nahi chalega, nahi chalega." So I was always worried, but I think at the end of it, I think that's a part of the journey you have to enjoy.
At a seed stage, that happens quite a bit. Right?
Correct.
And how did you guys? When did you know it's working actually? Or
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, after this moment of, like taking away 90% of our revenue base and then rebuilding everything,
Yeah.
I think once we reach back to that stage within, I think, 6 to 7 months of taking that, pivot and, that step, we were back at like 3 crore per month of revenue, but at a much higher profitability. I think, that's when we started, really believing that we took a right call, and now the same scale of the business has much better business metrics in terms of unit economics, in terms of the cash flow. And I think that was the moment probably where we felt that now nothing can stop us.
Yeah. Okay. And what went well and what didn't go that well during this phase, like that whole journey?
Yeah, I think the thing that went well was primarily around how we started thinking, about building products and features in a very focused manner, and we were getting more and more clear and focused in terms of which customers we should go to, which suppliers we should go to, what should be our go to market for bringing the initial suppliers, initial customers on board, and which few features we should focus in terms of driving the adoption. I think that clarity and that focus had started coming through after all the struggle and pivots. So that went well. What did not go well was, I mean, I think those were the days when we started understanding the nuances of how to manage the cash flows, how to manage the customer service, and how we can really leverage the power of customer service and customer experience, even in B2B, to drive great customer retention and continuous business expansion. We were not great at that, and we soon we realized that we were not able to retain our customers or grow the customers because the customer experience was not top class. And those eventually led to newer learnings, and we focusing a lot on that aspect, which probably we can say with a lot of pride is today the hallmark of what we have built, and the way we service our customers and suppliers.
Yeah. One of the things I realized is you guys are well known for the company culture, everyone like staying together. Like, when did you start thinking about that, and how big was the team at this time? Like,
Yeah, so I think
yeah,
this was around like we were closing to 500 days
yeah,
since
yeah,
our
inception.
seed funding,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we were already, I think, 150 people
Mm-hmm.
at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and soon we realized that we grew our people base little too fast and little too early. Maybe got overexcited by the success that we started feeling, and at that moment we were very aware in form of, because all three of us were very passionate about power of culture in terms of building a large successful company. And in that excitement we did start putting a lot of efforts on getting things right on people front, and building the right culture. But I mean, to our surprise, in spite of so much focus from founders, we were not really happy with the outcome, in terms of how the culture was translating into real business impact as well at the same time. So we had happy bunch of 150 people, but still in terms of the overall achievement and the success, there was not a great amount of satisfaction across the board, in terms of how things were growing. And I think post that, the learnings that we had around, and the biggest probably in my journey of entrepreneurship is how you build an environment of trust and transparency in a company, that changes the game of how you build a right culture. So if you can create an environment which enables people to speak freely, feel very comfortable, feel enabled, feel empowered, I mean, you can truly transform what those same people can achieve in that environment. So I think that was the biggest learning. And today what we have as a culture is probably an outcome of how we have constantly been trying to create that environment at Bizongo.
So, when did you know it's not working, and what did you change to create this culture of trust and
Yeah.
transparency?
So,
Yeah,
I mean, a little fast forward, I
yeah,
think from those 150 people
yeah,
to 200 people, we went from 200 to like 500 people at that point, at one point of time
yeah.
when we were growing, and we were became very aspirational in terms of how fast we could grow.
Mm,
And at that moment, we realized that, while we have got lot of talented people, probably we don't have an environment where everybody is able to contribute in their in their best abilities. And of course, we used to do a lot of ENPS
Employee NPS.
employee NPS survey within the organization, which used to give us real on ground insights that what's not going right. And after learning about that couple of quarters back to back, we realized that still we haven't created an environment where everybody is clear about their goals and how they can contribute best to the business objectives. And I mean, that's where we started focusing more on, where we as founders and we as leaders started creating that environment where we are very open about everything that we did, good or bad. We were acknowledging our mistakes. We were inviting more and more ideas from people to implement it, and we were able to create an environment which people felt very comfortable in, and they were able to bring the best out eventually. But that was a journey, and multiple learnings in that journey, when we really learned about the true power of leadership and culture to build something which is very powerful.
So for people who like, especially founders in the first 500 days, what would you do differently in the culture front and the team front? Or what are the practices you started following that you would have done earlier?
Yeah.
One or two practical things. Yeah.
No, I think, probably as leaders and as entrepreneurs, we, got ourselves transformed into people who were telling people that we should do this, versus, letting people tell us that we must do it and get it going, where people are continuously themselves coming up with ideas and ways to move forward. You just align them on the end goal of a quarter, end goal of a year, end goal of the vision and the dream that you have. And once you have gotten that alignment with your people, let them drive the show. Let them come up with ideas and ways to get there. If your people are able to do that, that's when you can feel that the right culture is built, which can take you to unimaginable heights.
Nice. So from a board member and from an investor perspective, did you observe these changes, or what was your observation during the as they developed? Yeah,
I think they started talking about cult values, right?
Okay.
So that was
not the fitness cult, right?
not the fitness cult. Cultural values of Bizongo cult.
Yeah, okay.
And I was like, okay, this is the first time, and I had not seen any other company of mine go to that extent of focusing on culture and being discussed at board level, that this is what we're doing. So it was quite intriguing what is happening here, right? And then I think you guys had that annual day in Bombay. I came for that. People were partying and people were really enjoying the vibe that you had called over. Parents of employees, awards were given. Parents or employees were there.
Yeah.
So
for the employees who are receiving the awards.
For the employees, I think more people had come also. I think, but I think genuinely it felt like a family coming together, and people investing their future of the success of Bizongo, and Bizongo investing back in them. I think that was a very nice feeling that basically emanated from that event, for me at least. And then I think going forward, we have been very consistent, right? All employees believe, like, the constant communication about cult has been through the office. You go, you can see values posted, and then people just talk about it. I think that has led itself to some sort of like a thread which binds together all the folks, right? So I think that has been quite interesting. Now, from a business perspective on the board, whether it shows up, I think it's more about, when you have board meeting where only the founders are presenting, whereas in their board meetings you can have senior members of the team coming and presenting there is ownership, that this is why I did what. It's not the founder defending somebody, it's the business leader standing up and saying, this is what we need. I think that transparency comes through in the meetings, right? So I think that was pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Anything else from the first 500 days that we missed, if not?
I think the bond and the relationship that we were building as founders with each other, that also evolved a lot in those days. And while probably we were we became good friends very early in the journey, but probably we became better professionals as we understood each other more emotionally, our strengths, and how we could help each other capitalize our strengths in a way that it eventually helps us achieving our dreams or our vision better and faster. So I think a lot of those discoveries we used to make on a day-to-day basis, but we probably only realized it once we looked back and saw how far we have come together in understanding each other as humans. And till date, I believe that that's probably the most powerful mode that we have for this business, in terms of how well we as founders and entrepreneurs understand each other, and emotionally, professionally, and how we are together in this to achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah, and it's not always easy, right? So it's not like, yes, there are strengths, but there are also weaknesses or
Yeah.
areas you can improve. Understanding those edges and all that.
Absolutely. I
yeah.
think we learned it hard way, like being absolutely brutally honest and radically candid about what you don't know, and where you are failing, and where you are, where your weaknesses are. I think that was the biggest learning in terms of how do we become vulnerable and connect with each other, because only when you start acknowledging your mistakes or limitation or constraints, I think that's when you develop that unique bond, which does the magic.
Okay.
So yeah,
Awesome.
Yeah,
So-
I think, sorry, just to add on, there are a bunch of things from a more objective, and this is
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
from a business perspective.
Yeah.
There were 2-3 things which we learned, which were things like, one was, we had multiple SKUs. Even within a category, we had multiple SKUs, and we were focusing, I think, 60-70 SKUs. And then we realized, to what Sachin said, to have good customer service, to have very good value proposition, we consolidated them to a lesser number of SKUs, so that we are very good in what we do and not necessarily have breadth. I think that was one learning, hard learning actually, right? It took us some time to understand that. I think second big learning was just working capital management. All B2B businesses go through that whole cycle of learning. You have some bad dues, you have some customers who are not paying you, or some suppliers want earlier payments. How do you manage all of that? It also happened a lot in the first 2-3
Okay,
years.
in layman's terms, can you talk about what is working capital?
Yeah, so let me explain working capital. So as a consumer, when you buy something from, let's say, Flipkart, right, you place an order and you immediately pay, and then the shipment comes to you, let's say, 1 week later or a couple of days later. Flipkart, for that particular product, might pay the supplier, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks later. So in this case, Flipkart has got money from the customer and is paying the supplier later. So they actually have negative working capital, which basically they got money first and now they can pay the supplier. It's a very good business to be in. And most marketplaces try to be negative working capital. But when B2B marketplaces start, and that's, I think, same for us in Bizongo when we started, we are a very unknown quantity, unknown player in the market. We'll go to a supplier, we say, we want to purchase from you, and we'll pay you 90 days later. Nobody will agree. So we have to pay them cash right now. We have to give them straight away, okay, I'm buying something for 100 rupees from you, take 100 rupees right now. Then I'll go to the buyer and I'll tell them, okay, this is 120 rupees worth of goods and you pay me. Buyer will say, hey, I'm a big guy, I'll pay you 90 days later. So you essentially have this problem that you have to manage. You're supposed to get 120 rupees, but you will get them 90 days later, right? And now you have to run your company in it. You might have only a little bit of cash, whatnot. So imagine this: if you're a business which is now scaled to $100 million of GMV, you will get paid $100 million only 3 months later. So you have to figure out how to run your business with that money, whatever you have right now. And so that is where banks and NBFCs step in and they give you working capital lines. You have to take on some debt and you have to figure out how to get not just money from investors for equity, because it's very, very, very expensive to run this working capital from equity. You might run out of cash very quickly. So you need to get working capital lines from banks. And that is something which we learned at Bizongo over the first 500, 600 days, how to just do it effectively, because banks and NBFCs have their own way of looking at your business. They will put some sort of constraints. Okay, you can't do these kind of businesses, or you can't have so much cash. Margins should be higher. All those lot of things. So it's also a constant exercise which we learned. And I think the other thing which we learned during this whole process as the company scaled up was organizational restructuring. Many times, Aniket and Sachin have switched offices, switched, orgs. Okay, somebody will manage sales, or maybe in the initial days, one person is managing an entire sales. Then people will split regions. How do we compensate, and how do we hire leaders, business leaders? How should we have different teams for large customers, different for small customers? So we went through this whole experimentation exercise of what works for us, so that we can provide the best value to customers, run the business effectively, all of those things. That was a maturity of organization exercise we went through, and I think we are at a good place now. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Good, man. So maybe fast forwarding, it's tough to ignore the last couple of years during COVID. What happened? Maybe walk us through that, the impact on Bizongo's business, and how did the three of you work on that? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, as COVID happened, the initial 3-6 months, the demand was hit like nobody had imagined. And the core business that we had at that time, we were just operating into packaging as a category.
Mhm.
And we could see our scale going down by 30, 40, 50, 60% within months. And we were really worried that, how do we bounce back from there? We did two things at that point of time, which fortunately and eventually worked out for us. One was that we started looking for more business opportunities. We were operating in one category. We had built very robust tech platform to build business in that,
Packaging.
but in packaging. But we could easily feel and easily identify that the same platform that we've built is applicable for everything which is customized or made to order. So within a month's time, when COVID happened, we were able to identify that piece and launch textile and apparel as the second category that we could operate in. And we could realize very fast and soon that whatever we have built for packaging as part of our entire full stack platform was so well applicable to everything customized, and that opened up absolutely new revenue streams, new opportunities. And today, textile and apparel contributes almost 45% of our overall business and scale. I think that was the first big thing that happened during COVID. And the second thing was, as everyone started working remotely, we could see the digital adoption of our platform naturally and organically increasing. And we could feel that what we have built is of tremendous value for both customers and suppliers. And then we doubled down on that. So last 1.5 years, I think the kind of adoption that we have been able to drive on our platform, that has transformed the business, where last month itself we recorded 2.5 lakh digital interactions on our platform as part of the engagement between customers, suppliers, directly making platform almost self-serve. And in B2B, when you're servicing enterprises, getting to that stage probably is the most difficult thing. And I think the way we focused on this part of building a full stack platform and building it in a way it can become self-serve, that has been the two sort of transformational things in the recent times.
Awesome. Maybe last question to you, Prank. What of Sachin and the Bizongo team has helped them ride through all the pivots, challenges, everything, and get where they are today?
I think look at his smile. I think it's. I think all the founders have just perseverance. Let me put it that way, right? They went through that first pivot of going from 3 crores to 20 lakhs and then coming back up. They and COVID. I mean, I remember when COVID hit again, we had this huge challenge. We had to let go a lot of people. That was, I think, the founders. That was the only time I saw all the founders actually very sad. Like they were like, "Hey, we don't want to do this, but what if we don't do this? Then what happens to the company?" It's a very tough call. But I think, and then so we have had so many ups and downs, so many learnings in the business. I think they've just persevered through everything, and they just keep smiling. If you meet all three of them they just smile too much. I don't know how they do that. I don't know how they do that.
I realize I smile more with people I connect with.
Nice. Cool.
Good. Yeah. So I think that has been, I think, number one, right? There were times when raising funding was difficult. There were times when business was, but I think it was just perseverance. And I think at some level, I just feel that they have a lot of confidence in themselves that, this too shall pass. We are together as founders. We have a good culture. We have a good people around them, and they're not. I mean, touch wood, they're not perturbed too much about things. They're doing the right things and they're putting in their hard work. So it will happen what they want to do, right? So it will be a big company. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Maybe we'll close with a quick rapid fire round, and starting with
Okay.
you, Sachin. What is your first impression of Priyank?
First impression of Priyank, I would say very supportive.
Yeah. Okay. What was your first impression of Sachin?
High energy, like very enthusiastic about stuff they are doing. So, and of course, all the time smiling. So,
What's one piece of advice Priyank has given that you remember fondly?
I think have an executive coach for myself. I think that is the most useful and something that has done magic with me as a person. Yeah.
Awesome. What is one quality of Sachin's you trade for?
chill, confidence. I think he has a lot of self-confidence. Like when I talk to him, so this is happening, that is, it's okay, I'll manage. Like, I don't know how he does it. Like, I would love to have that. I think he's just inner peace is there for him. So yeah.
And last question, one thing that delights Priyank extraordinarily.
Growth.
I like it easy.
So,
Yeah, awesome. On that note, thank you for taking the time and sharing all the details of your journey. Really appreciate it.
thanks,
It was
Anand.
our
Awesome.
pleasure. We had a wonderful time.
Thank you.
No, you have been supportive of Bizongo since day one.
Yeah.
You have been as much part of our journey.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. No,
yeah.
no problem. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
What a great conversation. I thank Sachin and Priyank for coming on and sharing all these stories and insights about Bizongo's first 500 days. We wish Sachin and the Bizongo team all the best. We're definitely rooting for them. That's it for this time from Priyank and me at Axel. Please subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. Our website is seedtoscale.com/insights, where you can find other such episodes from our series. Stay safe. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye.